What's the scariest video game you've ever played? Mine has to be PT, Playable Teaser. The one where you go down the hallway over and over again and you hear the voice coming from the phone. It's horrible, it's so scary. I can't even play it, it's just sitting in storage. Comment down below, I need inspiration this holiday season. Scariest video game. Right down there, what's up? I am filling in today. I don't belong here, dare I say. Filling in for Taylor Smith, I'm Taylor McWaters. Rather confusing. Here are the top 10 terrifying video games to keep you up at night. Let's do it. Number 5, Observer. Observer, a 2017 release from Bloober Team. That's a great name, Bloober Team. The same studio behind the acclaimed Layers of Fear series, as well as the Blair Witch and The Medium. So if you're a fan of those ones, hop on in. Observer is a unique psychological horror game. Set in a cyberpunk-style dystopia heavily inspired by the classic sci-fi film Blade Runner. Observer wears its inspiration on its sleeve, even going as far as to cast Blade Runner's villain, Rutger Hauer, as the protagonist. Daniel Lakowski, who is an observer, hence the name, there we go. The Observer is a futuristic police officer who can hack into people's brains and scan their memories. This is like a Black Mirror nightmare come to life. After receiving a call from his estranged son, Daniel is sent to investigate a possible killing in a rundown apartment block where he finds a, body. It's headless, it's horrible. It's the worst thing you want to find. It's a horror game, you know what's up. From here, a lockdown is triggered and Daniel must discover what has caused the murder, where his son is, and what is locking the building down, and of course, what is going to be a very long night. It's a ride, you're in for a treat. The game is a first-person perspective with emphasis on exploration, investigation, and stealth over combat. It's kind of like Batman, dare I say, with a heavy atmosphere. Where the game shines is any of its observation sequences, where Daniel gets to hack into other person's, consciousness, seeing twisted virtual dreams that start to blend into the real world, keeping you wondering what's real and what's, an old man's implants just malfunctioning. The classic situation, which is which? The atmosphere of Observer is incredible, with few other games doing what they accomplished here, painting a very hyper-focused picture of a claustrophobic rundown dystopian apartment block, creating a haunted digital nightmare that will leave you cold, paranoid, and fearful, all the while wanting to explore every end of the building. It's a little twisted. Observer is available on current and last generation consoles as well as Steam, and if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of cyberpunk, and if you're just a fan of video games, it comes with a hearty recommendation from our boy Taylor Smith. Number 4, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. Coming to us from Ninja Theory, the team behind Heavenly Blade and The Devil May Cry, where Dante didn't look like Dante. Senua's Sacrifice is an intense third-person horror game set in a dark fantasy world inspired by Nordic culture. You play Senua, a young woman trying to make her way into Helheim to confront the goddess Hela and attempt to save her fallen lover. Now, Senua believes herself to be cursed, when in actuality she suffers from psychosis, and the game really makes you feel like you are too. It's kind of twisted. The entire time you experience these audio hallucinations, talking to you at every moment, questioning your every decision, yelling at you randomly, speaking to you, and even guiding you when needed. With headphones on, you'll actually feel like you've got voices in your head. It's so scary. It's incredibly creepy and immersive in that fantasy way that only video games as a medium can be. Senua's gameplay is mostly about exploration and puzzle solving, featuring some really inventive stuff with the environments, trying to find patterns and runes in the natural formation of things to progress, traveling through different gateways and portals to slightly different dimensions. It all sells the feeling of not being all there mentally. There's no heads-up display or anything, just a dry screen, giving the game a really cool cinematic feeling as well. Whenever I play video games, I always take off the HUD. I'm like, let's just do it, let's just live it. Because it immerses you into the storyline. You don't have things distracting you, right? Which, in this case, is chock full of tons of paranoia and horror, so you really want to dive in that. You'll face off against spectral warrior enemies, and while the combat isn't going to take home any gold stars per se, it's frenetic and tense enough to keep you sweating the entire time. The game warns you that should you fail a combat sequence too many times and die too many times in a row, the game will outright delete your save file at that point, and then you'll have to start over from the beginning. That's terrifying. That's the scariest part I've heard so far. With that in mind, in the back of your head the entire time, each combat encounter feels desperately personal, with a feeling of real stakes. Imagine Mario Party? Yeah, spin a 4. If you get a 3, delete. Number 3, Until Dawn. Yes, who doesn't love 80s slasher movies? This is good. They're one of my guiltiest pleasures. I love seeing a series of stock archetype one-note characters get cut down by a cool monster wearing a goalie mask, of course. Don't worry, he's actually quite nice in real life, not that scary. Until Dawn, the 2015 game from Supermassive Studios, offers us a chance at directing our very own cult 80s slasher movie, right? The premise is as simple as you'd want. A group of teenage school friends go up to a cabin in the woods for the ultimate party in a secluded spot in the Albertan mountains. Just what you want every summer, of course, our dream. Am I including this game because it takes place in Canada? Entirely possible. As you'd expect, the teen finds there's something else in the mountains with them, something haunting. And you'll have to do their very best to survive until dawn. Yeah, you guessed, that's cool. That's the title. Until Dawn puts you in control of all the various characters throughout the night, and you'll have to do everything you can to keep them alive, making split-second choices and decisions that can have consequences that you might not expect. A wrong move can lead your favorite character suffering a grisly fate right in front of you, leaving you guessing and afraid, really putting you in the shoes of these helpless fools. These helpless teenage dreamers. This game is a great time, regardless, but if you really want to see Until Dawn at its best, get a few friends over, grab some popcorn and pizza, live it up, turn it into a co-op game by passing the controller around as each character's perspective. The game implores you to do this, and now we on Top 5 Scary implore you to do the same. Until Dawn captures all the stuff we love about cheesy horror movies. Getting to see it unfold for you personally also makes it seem like Until Dawn is a horror movie catered to your own personal tastes. Do you want to see everyone suffer the most horrific fate possible? Great, go for it. Intentionally blow the entire thing, or are you looking to see your survivors harden into tough as nail warriors and, make it through the night with everyone possibly, hopefully, coming home? Well, your quick wits and decision making will be all that you have to rely on, so kill it. Until Dawn's gameplay is very simple, comprising almost exclusively of quick-time events, including all combat, so it's ideal for those who don't even game that much to just hop in. Really couldn't recommend this one enough. The studio has also put out The Dark Pictures and The Quarry, which are spiritual successors to Until Dawn, and all worth it in their own right. But the original stands the strongest, in our opinion. You can find Until Dawn on PS4, and it usually goes on sale for less than the price of a movie ticket, so wait around a bit. Number 2, Soma. Soma comes to us from Frictional Games, the Swedish development studio that proved themselves to be masters of horror, giving us Amnesia, The Dark Descent, and defining the indie horror game scene for years to come. Amnesia was a hard act to top, I'm not gonna lie. While some might disagree, Soma is an excellent successor. Soma is a first-person exploration horror game, putting us in the eyes of Simon Jarrett. Also, have to shout this out quickly, but Simon lives in Toronto, and I don't know how many Torontonian viewers we have here, but you have no idea how massive it was to play a video game where you go to Osgood Station, you know what I mean? Simon, a bookstore clerk who after a car crash goes in for a medical experiment, he finds himself awaking hundreds of years in the future, under the sea after a cataclysmic event has wiped out humanity. Yeah, just the ideal scenario. Wear a seatbelt, I guess. Simon finds himself as humanity's sole survivor, trapped alone, far away from home, surrounded only by machines that believe themselves to be human beings, and mysterious creatures that are vicious, horrific mergings of machine and flesh wandering through the deserted halls of the undersea research station. It's yucky. Soma is terrifying in a way that gets underneath your skin. It doesn't rely on jump scares, per se. In fact, there's almost none in the game whatsoever. The terror, rather, comes from the indescribable feeling of being completely alone. As you and Simon explore the facility, you'll do your best to piece together what happened, and you'll find yourself, the player, asking questions you have difficulty answering. It's really difficult to talk about Soma without giving away too many beats about its plot, obviously, but if you're a fan of sci-fi, especially anything like AI, like Westworld, or even Blade Runner, well, you'll find yourself right at home in Soma's extremely existential storyline. Something worth shouting out also is Soma actually has an option to toggle off the monsters entirely. So if you want to solely experience the storyline without any of the stealth sequences whatsoever, and while it might sound strange removing all the enemies from the game, it actually really works here. Since so much of the game is actually about feeling empty, it serves the atmosphere quite well in that case, so worth a shot. If you struggle with difficulty in games too, it's a perfect option for those who are just looking to experience the unique storyline, It's also kind of like a horror movie, right? Soma is available on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam. And last but certainly not least, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Yeah, this one I've played for a hot minute, so it's scary. When it comes to survival horror, we need to pay respects to the old masters, absolutely. Resident Evil has been king of survival horror and goofy cutscenes since 1998, and Resident Evil 7 might genuinely be one of the best of them all. The series' traditional third-person and fixed camera perspectives is amazing. It's always a good time. Moving from the series' traditional third-person and fixed camera perspectives, Resident Evil 7 puts you in the first-person driver's seat. It is terrifying. Protagonist Ethan Winters finds himself trapped in a Louisiana plantation looking for his wife, and he ends up the victim of a sadistic family of seemingly immortal, regenerating hillbilly lunatics. Yeah, that game. You're probably thinking, oh, I've seen that. Yeah, it's terrifying. It looks very real. It's quite new, this one. This game is horrifying. While Resident Evil has always drawn inspiration from American horror cinema, namely things like Night of the Living Dead or Evil Dead, Resident Evil 7 draws from grittier sources with the influences of that of Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Saw or Hostel, all being uncomfortably present, right? The things that happen to Ethan in this game are enough to put you in therapy. It is wild. My hands were sweating certainly playing this. Ethan finds himself infected with the same substance affecting the family, meaning he can take unbelievable amounts of physical punishment, and boy howdy, does he ever. Yeah, and you see it all in 4K. It's one of the few video games that I forgot was a video game, you know what I mean? It's kind of like Red Dead Redemption. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm doing this. This is crazy. If you're feeling particularly brave, you can play Resident Evil 7 in VR, in an experience that's so horrifying it's almost too much to handle. I can't even play VR normally, let alone VR horror. Are you kidding? I play the mini putting and I'm like, this is too much. This is Black Mirror. I'm out. It puts you as close as possible to the horror around you. Slowly creeping around the disgusting Baker estate, desperately hoarding what life supplies you can find, while of course trying to elude your seemingly immortal psychotic captors, will have you standing on the edge the entire time. You'll literally be standing up while you play, like you're 8 years old playing GameCube. It truly feels like you're fighting for your life the entire time. As a longtime Resident Evil fan, number 7 surpassed my expectations and brought the series back to its rightful place as king of horror. And if you're a new fan, it's the perfect place to jump in the madness. The follow-up to Ethan's story, Resident Evil Village, is spectacular as well, and I wish we had time to talk about it, but alas, we don't. That's what part 2s are for. They're both excellent, but the horror in 7 is simply unmatched. That's all I'm saying. In my opinion, the absolute scariest game on the market right now, and it might not be topped for a long time. Comment down below if you agree, disagree. Also, comment down below your favorite game. Can't believe they're doing horror on VR now. That's the worst thing I can ever imagine. I've been not Taylor Smith nor Kyle McWaters, somewhere in the middle. I've been your fill-in host, Taylor McWaters, and hopefully I'll see you again soon on Top 5 Scary. Peace.